Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the Survivor Calgary All-Stars Recap Podcast. I'm Keegan, and this is Chris joining me today. How are you doing, Chris?
Good. How are you, Keegan?
Pretty good. How did you like that episode?
It was good. Honestly, the last 10-15 minutes, I had no idea what was going on, and it was great.
Just complete who's the traitor? Who's the traitor? Yeah. Who did it?
And I thought of everyone except for Sydney.
Like everyone else in the game. We have Sydney joining us today, and we also have Malone. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Timothy as he was busy tonight for an exit interview, but we do have those two joining us. And Malone could be considered a casualty of this episode after his name was kind of dragged through the mud a little bit, but we'll get to that later. Chronologically, we had a situation where we were sort of looking at both tribes, and Yeti was in heavy disarray after the Willow Tribal Council, and Phoenix seemed to be doing okay. What is your sort of glimpse into that group, those two groups?
What we saw there was not what we saw at the immunity challenge.
Mm-hmm. You think that lunch was effective to bring team morale back together?
I mean, the blueberries look pretty good.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, we saw that Taylor said Phoenix was flying high, and meanwhile the Yeti tribe had 3 hinky votes or something like that going on. Concern about sort of who is the actual power group. Cole seemed to be pretty convinced by Eric that they were the power group. Did not keep him from wanting to go to tribal council at all.
I think that the power group is whoever Eric and Sherwin choose to be the power group.
Yeah, the real power group is a power group of 2.
Yeah, they're playing really well right now, and I think that Eric telling Robin and Cole about Evan voting against them also is going to go a long way in allowing him to basically decide which direction he wants to go.
Yeah, it's keeping those two groups, those two duos of Evan and Sean and Cole and Robin at each other instead of
and at the beginning
hey,
I think Cole was mentioning that he was had a little bit of buyer's remorse when it came to getting rid of Willow, and I think that may turn into a little more remorse as time goes by.
Very possibly. We do get to Tom announcing the challenge. Well, kind of. Announcing that the challenge is going to be a tribal council and 2 people from Phoenix need to sit out. If you're in that group of Phoenix, how do you make the decision of who to sit out, knowing basically nothing about the challenge other than it's at tribal and it's strategic?
I think I would want anyone to sit out that was not me.
You want to be in that challenge.
I would want to be in the challenge. I would want some sort of say. I would want to know what's going on. And also I wouldn't want anyone to think that I sat out because I don't think that I'm good at a challenge or anything like that, and that make it an easy reason to target me.
What did you think of the strategy Phoenix ended up taking of let's sit out our 2 all-rounders who are Cam and Taylor? Because they're not particularly strong in any dimension, but they're fairly strong in everything.
I thought that is an interesting decision. I totally see where their logic came from. I probably would have gone a different way just because I feel like you'd want the most all-rounded skilled people in there just because you don't know what's
the downside is the next challenge you might want them to be participating if it's a physical or a puzzle challenge.
Oh yeah, I forgot about having to sit out one challenge back to back. Yeah,
which
we'll see that makes it a little bit more tricky. It's you can't just look at the one challenge in a microcosm. So
especially when Phoenix is up so many people. Well, not anymore, but
at that point it's also just hard to choose.
Yeah,
honestly, you have to sit out two people that flip a coin almost.
Yeah, and Cam and Taylor do come out of it okay. In the fact that everybody knows that they didn't take me. Yeah, they're the only people who have not betrayed the Phoenix tribe at this point.
In hindsight, if I had fought for myself to be in this challenge, once I was told what the challenge actually was, may have regretted that decision a little.
Yeah. They might have wanted that idol. It'll be interesting if we get Taylor or Cam on to ask them, hey, would you have taken me?
Yeah.
We'll see about that. Now we get to the actual challenge, which is me or we. Krish, put yourself in varying situations, whether you're on the Yeti tribe or the Phoenix tribe, or in a power position on either tribe or in a weak position on either tribe. When do you take me versus we?
Definitely take we for the vote for sure. I don't think that is worth.
An extra vote is not worth it.
No, not in my opinion.
What about for an idol?
I was gonna say, when it comes to the idol, it becomes a lot more tricky. I think Sydney actually played it very, very well because I think that she knew no one would suspect her, and that I think, like, if you're on the bottom of your tribe, you want to say me because you want the idol, but then you also don't want the idol. Sorry, you want to say we because you don't want to go to tribal council because you'll be targeted, like, no matter what. And if you if you're going to tribal council, your tribe thinks that someone has voted, like, knows someone has voted me, and they're going to suspect that you have the idol. So they're going to try and flush it or hope that you don't play it.
An interesting thing to note too is even if you take me, you're not guaranteed the idol.
That's true. Yeah, if more than one person takes me, then it was a random draw, right? And one person would get the idol.
Yeah, we randomized. That's why we had the sheets initially, was so that we could sort of draw those out of the urn if we needed to.
I think that if you're if you're in a power position, like Eric, for example, I think he could have considered taking the me, because if they go to tribal council, I don't think people would suspect that, because they're like people that are in a strong position would have less of a need to. Hey, Cole.
Yeah, Cole has a similar opinion. If you're Eric or Shervin, you maybe should have gone for it. What do you think about this? Do you think Eric or Shervin should have gone for it?
Yeah, like that's what I was just trying to explain, is like if you're in such a good position, like in your tribe, you should go for it. You get an immunity idol. Worst case, you don't, but you still know where the votes are at tribal council.
I think one thing to note, though, to some degree, is that like you could think you're in a good position, but you don't, like, and we can from our perspective know that they're in a good position.
Yeah.
Right. When you're in the game, you don't really know if you're in a good position or not.
Yeah, it's very easy sitting on my couch and watching, having no idea about anything but what I'm seeing in front of me.
Should have said me. Should have said me.
Exactly. Tim went home. Man, come on. You should have said me. Come on, dude.
Do you think anyone else other than Sid on the Phoenix tribe should have said me?
It's
because we had Jackson, Justine, Craig, Sid, Malone, and Timothy.
With hindsight, I think that like Tim obviously should have said me, but I think that Tim saying we was him knowing that he was on the bottom of the tribe and hoping that they were not going to tribal council. And then everyone else on the tribe, honestly, I have no idea where they would rank when it comes to how comfortable they are. I think that like
it still feels like a lot of the social groups on that Phoenix tribe are very fluid beyond like maybe a group of 3 of like Craig, Taylor, and Sid.
Yeah, it's pretty up in the air, as we saw with the scramble before tribal council. I was confused. I'm sure they were confused.
and they're half trying to figure out who to vote for and half trying to figure out who said me.
Yeah.
And to some degree, Malone touched on this in the tribal council itself. A good amount of the Phoenix tribe took too much time figuring out maybe who took the me versus actually going for like making a target for the tribal council.
Yeah, but I also feel that doing that sleuthing was sort of a way of creating a target as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we got a lot of targets out of the sleuthing. We got Justine targeting Jackson, Timothy targeting Justine, Jackson targeting Malone. No one targeting the actual person who did it, of course. No. But all of these salvos were being thrown all around. If you are in the position where you did say we, and someone on your group said me, you know that because you lost. how do you even approach trying to figure out who did it?
Man, that's a good question. Like, you'd be in the conversations, you try to read body language. Honestly, I personally, as you saw in my season, am terrible at reading body language and making things out like that. So I would probably do a very bad job in deciphering who.
Would you really try, or would you try and sort of be like, someone took it, I need to know this for the future?
Yeah, I don't think that I would be leading a charge to try and figure out who took it. I would obviously be trying to like figure that out myself, but I think that leading a charge to figure out who did it also might paint a little bit of a target on your back because you might be trying a little bit too hard.
You're targeting the person who has the idol.
Exactly.
If you're right, it might not actually work out for you, because then that person who is playing an idol knows to target you.
Yeah. And if you do manage to get them out, then you have a target on your back because it was your plan and your idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I do also think that like just the presence of this does hurt Phoenix's togetherness quite a lot.
Oh, definitely.
Because now they have someone who they don't know backstab them.
And
so we'll see if that does affect group dynamics later on.
I don't think anyone suspects Sydney, so it might just like fester up to a point. Who knows?
Now we get to the actual vote. We had a 4-3-1. We had 4 for Timothy, 3 for Malone, and 1 for Cam. It seemed like Timothy might have been the consensus target just because they didn't know who to go for, and Timothy might have taken it. And Timothy wasn't really playing with people prior to that tribal council. It did seem like the other group was targeting Malone because they thought he took the me and had an idol, and so they didn't want to have a situation where he gets to pick who goes home. In this case, it would have been Cam. What do you think of that overall strategy that the Phoenix cobbled up together when they realized they were running out of time?
I mean, I'm shocked that it came together as cohesively as it did, because it looked like it was all like brought together on the walk towards tribal council.
We were literally seeing people talking about who to vote for as they were entering the little alcove for tribal council. For people who have been to Whitebreast, they sort of recognize the landmarks. They're like, wait a second, that's literally just right outside tribal that they're discussing this.
And I thought it was like actually too funny that they just mentioned Jackson, and then Jackson walks up like as the crowd parts to be part of the conversation.
And Jackson says, "Oh yeah, I'm not solid for, or I'm solid for Cam."
Solid for
Cam.
Cam.
So you're gonna vote for him? No, yeah. I like him. So all right, like it started with miscommunication, and somehow it got together. We'll see how organized it really was in episode 4. Or if people were just sort of picking who they wanted to target there.
We also forgot to touch on the fact that Cole found the ice idol.
Yes, and everybody knows about it.
Yeah. I thought that it was like a smart play for him, though, to try and keep like Evan and Sean in the dark about like how Robin trying to pretend that Robin didn't know about the idol. Mm-hmm. I think that'll keep Cole, like, selfishly, it'll keep Cole around a little bit longer because he showed that trust. Plus, he has this idol that will hopefully help that group moving forward.
Yeah, very true. If you're in that situation where you find, well, in this case, Cole found the Smirnoff while he was with a group of people.
Yeah.
So the decision was sort of made for him. But if you were in a situation where you're like going off to the bathroom and you see this giant 2-liter thing of Smirnoff in the woods, right? And you see that it's an immunity idol and you need to finish it, do you tell people and get them to share? Or do you hide that in your tent and take a little swig as the day goes on?
I think you hide it. I think if you can, you shouldn't tell anyone. I mean, like, you'll be quite belligerent by the end of the day. But, I mean, who's not drinking?
Cole does say he would have downed it solo if he could have.
Yeah. I honestly feel any idol, you got to try and keep it secret for as long as you can. The minute that it's out there, the target that it paints on you is too much.
Yeah, I agree. I made that mistake in my season. Although I also think it's a little bit different when it's an expiring idol.
Yeah. It, like, when it's like a timeline, it changes the like urgency to play it.
Yeah.
Because I think when you're the only one, when you have an idol at like, if you make it to Final 5, you can use that to like barter and stuff, and it's not putting an extra target on your back because you're gonna be using it.
Cole says we finish it in 2 minutes, and Cam says 2 minutes amateurs. Of course, Cam, who has now failed to plant Smirnoff Ices in the woods for the 5th time.
He's probably too busy drinking them. Let's be honest. He doesn't want to let us know, but he probably wakes up in the morning, goes to hide them, and is like, or I can just have this for breakfast.
All right. Final thing. What did you think of Timothy's game before he was unfortunately sent to the edge in episode 3 here?
I feel like he came in with a big target. I wish that he tried to, or like we didn't actually see it, but I wish that he tried to do a little more of the social game, just because I feel like he wasn't involved in a lot of the conversations. It became a very easy first vote.
I mean, the footage did not show up on camera because it wasn't there. It didn't show up in the show because Timothy was just out in the woods the whole time.
That's fair. I mean, at least like I'm sure that he had a really good time in the woods, and he has a chance now to come back on the edge. So we know how he fares in challenges. So
and Timothy is going to be a threat on the edge. Currently, his competition is Willow and Kristen. Who, no offense to Willow and Kristen, if it's a certain type of challenge, Timothy will be very good at it.
We saw the first challenge and his long arms and how unfair that was.
Yeah. He might find himself cup flush by the time the return comes around. All right, getting on to it. Let's bring in Malone and Sid, our guests tonight, to talk about the episode. Sid, Malone. First of all, Malone, some props to you. You were the one who edited this episode. So thank you very much for that. You did a great job.
Thanks.
You might be able to share some hidden tidbits of conversations that you had to leave on the cutting room floor or something too. We'll see.
There's a couple things.
Generally, what did you both think of the episode? I know, Malone, this might be like sort of self-congratulating, but
check the comments if you want to see what I thought about it.
For those unaware, I think the comment is great editing. Sid?
I thought it was so fun. I was like waiting for the reveal the whole time. I was like, why am I coming on this podcast? I was like confused. My dad was texting me. He was like so excited. He's like, what's going on? And then, the little flashback at the end, I thought it was really, and the sort of whodunit sort of theme of it all was, I really enjoyed it.
Very nice. Speaking of the whodunit, what was sort of your mentality for Sid? You're going to have a very different one after the tribal counts or after the challenge happens and it's announced, well, Sid, you successfully played me and your team lost. And then Malone, your team lost, but you picked we. What is your thought process as you're sort of leaving that tribal council area and go to talk about who did it and the vote?
I mean, my thought was, fuck, I'm going to get blamed for this. I genuinely thought like the only people who might like be the kind of person to do this would be me and Tim, because and Tim, not necessarily because he's like, I don't know, shifty or shady, but I feel like Tim is the kind of person who you could say like, hey, don't touch this, and the first thing Tim would do would be like, what happens if I touch it? I feel like he just is like forced to do these things, and so
also known immediately for going for advantages.
Yeah, that's just, I mean, he had the deepest pockets in the history of Survivor Calgary in the first season. And so, yeah, I think for me, it was no doubt it has to be Tim. And then Justine was acting a little weird, so I was also a little suspicious of her. But yeah, for me, it was like, this was definitely Tim. I need to tell people it wasn't me because everyone's going to think it was me.
Sid, how about you?
Just like what was going through my head?
Yeah, because you technically didn't know that you were the only me vote, or you technically didn't know you were the only me vote until like just now. But you didn't know that you had gotten the idol until you had actually gotten to the voting urn during that tribal council. Were you
Yeah.
worried that someone else might have taken it, or were you pretty sure that you were the only one?
I think I was not worried. I was
Hmm.
not confident. I felt like my whole perception of the situation was like 30% like intuition, 30% like social relationships, and then like 30% luck. So I was just like hoping for the best. And I felt like I was not in the bottom. I also felt like I was not at the top. I sort of had this feeling that my name was not being uttered. And so I felt like there was no there was no consequence for me to say me, because it didn't matter. Even if I didn't get it, I didn't feel like I was going home. Like going to tribal, it was very selfish. Like I was like, take us to tribal, like sue me. I was like, I'm in the clear, and so if I can get away with this, and I'm the only one, then like, yeah. And I don't know. Sorry. Yeah.
Did you think that anyone would suspect you, or were you pretty confident that you'd be in the clear?
I was pretty confident. I went to a art school in junior high and high school, so I did a little drama. So I was like, I think I can like really.
The high school drama class is paying off.
No, it actually was.
We're bringing professionals on here. What the heck? How's anyone supposed to compete?
And I like did an exercise with myself, and I was like, I voted we, and I was like telling myself like I became the lie.
You were method acting that you were a team player.
Yeah, I was like, I'm for the team. So I felt pretty good, and also based on, as we said, like I'd heard Malone's name being cast a little bit, and then I'd also heard Tim was like kind of a choice that was coming up. So I was like, we're just gonna, yeah.
Was part of that sureness coming from the discussions you had at lunchtime prior to the actual start of the challenge? Or was most of that already happening by the time the challenge happened?
Oh, it's so fuzzy. I think it was a bit of both. I think that going into the challenge, my relationships were getting pretty strong at that point, like stronger than maybe they're perceived at the moment. Like, yeah, I was confident enough to like do it. So I'm like, I think that Tim was kind of a collective, like we're like, he's a threat. He's like the next obvious choice, was kind of like this, what I'd been hearing. And then there had been a couple doubts about Malone, like through Cam and through Taylor, I believe. So there was like threads before going into the challenge. And then, yeah.
And that gave you sort of a little bit more confidence to be able to say me.
I had things to, seeds were planted already, I think. So I was like, all right. Yeah.
Malone, why did you say we? Why didn't you betray everybody?
I think at this stage in the game, I felt like I was on like probation. I feel like I wasn't allowed to get away with anything. And so I had to play very clean. And I say it in the confessional in the episode, basically, like, I'm glad I didn't say me now that I know that someone else did, because if I was going into this tribal thinking I have like a 50-50 or a 30% shot of getting this idol, I'd have been sweating bullets, because I know that aspersions were being cast my way. And I think I like foolishly was trying to like be like, oh, I'm a good guy this season. Maybe I should have just voted me and let chaos reign again. But my mindset definitely going into basically everything that happened in this early stage of the game was, I need to show people that I'm willing to calm down and not, inject chaos into the game. Partially for myself, and then also because I don't want to like sink Robin's game because I'm acting like a fool over here on this tribe. And then, if we both make the merge, we're going to both get gunned for because I'm up to my old shenanigans again. So.
Yo, can I just say, it's funny, like how much our season 3 personas or like the narrative arcs, I feel like from that traveled into this season.
Oh yeah.
Because when I got the idol, I was genuinely shocked that you didn't vote me. Like, I was like, what?
I was yeah, that's something I was like wondering. Like, weren't you surprised when you got the idol? Like, did you think it was a sure thing, or did you think it was like, oh, I got the draw, Malone didn't, loser?
I was surprised. I didn't believe you. I was like, of course he voted me. Like, it's Malone, like in my head. And so, yeah, it's just funny to see.
I think the knowledge of what happened to our tribe last season and how, like, well, I say our tribe, but the rest of our tribe minus you last season, and how how we dwindled in numbers and kind of shed people coming into the merge, and how that basically sunk everyone's game. I think I was so focused on that kind of like numbers going to the merge that I was like, never. You could offer me 3 idols, and I wouldn't have. I don't think I would have voted me. I think my priority was, let's get to the merge with some numbers.
Good.
That's crazy.
Well, 2 wasn't enough last time, so.
Fair enough.
Dang. That's funny.
Chris, you have any more questions for him?
Not today.
Okay. I've got one more, which is, Sid, how close were you to taking we instead of me? Like what was the odds of you? Because you were thinking at that voting booth.
Yeah. It was a split decision. I voted we originally because the incentive of a vote is like, by the time I'm even gonna get to use the vote, my brain is fried. We're like, there's just no math. I can't do math anymore. I was like, okay. And then this obviously idol, I was like, yeah, okay. And I was, that meme with the lady who's like doing all the equations in her head, and she's like, I was like that, like a little, as I was walking to the forest, I was trying to like walk as slow as possible. And again, trying to gauge like where were my social relationships at, which I was feeling really strong. And then my gut feeling that actually I'm not going to get voted out in the next tribal, so it doesn't matter. I should just do this anyway. Malone's probably going to do it. I'm like a sucker if I don't do this. And then let's just like luck. And then also kind of like the thrill of it all. Because I played a very like, the game last season was like trying to survive. Yeah. As one does in this game. But it was like kind of fun to have a moment of like, oh, let's like play from the top a little. Yeah.
I could just keep it a bit.
Yeah. So but it was really, I was like like a hamster on a freaking wheel in my head. And then I just, did it.
I have a question for Sydney. How, like, sure was this vote going into tribal? Because, I can't tell how planned it was for it to be Tim and not me. Like one of those clips that didn't, make it past the kind of the first draft was Taylor sitting at the voting booth, pulling his hair out, not knowing who to vote for. Which makes it kind of seem like it was up in the air.
I forgot about that.
He was stressed about it. So yeah, I wanted to know, like, in my mind, coming out of this tribal, I'm not even scared because I'm like, I caught 3 votes. I was expecting 2 because I figured Justine was going to vote for me because she hates me and is insane right now. And Tim will probably vote for me because he'll probably kind of clue in that it's me or him. And then the one I was kind of surprised at when I got the third one was Jackson's vote. And then I kind of like pieced together, like, well, like Jackson's a very like straightforward, vote we kind of guy. And if he thinks that I voted me, he's going to fucking end me.
If I know, like, as someone who knows Jackson, someone thinking that Jackson took we or me is the most hilarious thing in the world.
Yeah, not a chance. Not a chance.
Dude is the biggest team player you've ever met.
So I figured that, like, if any one but those 3 had voted for me, I would have been like alarm bells blaring. But it's those 3, and like it seemed justified to me. So I was like, in my mind, it was like, well, things were chaotic, and then we settled on Tim. me and my best friends, Sydney and Taylor and Craig, all voted together, and everything was fine. So yeah, how planned was it, and how much of a dice roll was it at the end?
Okay, I'm really going into the recesses of my memory because I thought for a minute there I voted you, but I guess do we have stats on that? I voted Tim.
I believe it was Tim and Justine voted for Malone.
And Jackson.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it was.
It sounds like it was a very last minute decision to make it Timothy instead of Malone.
I'm just I think that when I talk about certainty, I guess I'm talking about myself, but I knew that what I had been hearing was Tim and Malone. And I had so I in my mind, it was between the two of you going into that vote, because I had talked to Cam and Taylor a little bit, and they were they hadn't said your name as someone we wanted to vote for yet, but there was inklings of we can't get a read on this guy, or maybe he said
there was some expectation that there was going to be 2 idols played that night, or that tribal.
Yeah,
one from Timothy
don't even get me
and
started.
One from Malone for taking me.
Don't even get me started. Taylor, the words coming out of Taylor's mouth of Malone hasn't been searching for idols. He must already have one. I can't win. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, I know. There's nothing to do. Yeah.
Cam says, I feel like we decided to do a 4-3 on Tim solely because we thought Malone was more likely to idle, and put majority on Tim was likely.
There it is. Yeah.
Right
Yeah, it was a split decision.
So your underhandedness saved you, technically, Malone.
Wow! Which just leans into the fact that I should have not done this good boy routine, and I should have just leaned into the chaos, because chaos saves.
Next time.
Should have just talked llama and ran off into the woods.
100%. I was joking that I was gonna pull that you guys play nice the second this game started, and I should have done it.
Yeah.
Oh well, as we saw in the preview for next week, there is some sort of weird merge swap thing happening. There's some buffs being dropped, so maybe that will help me out. Maybe it will sink me further. Guess we'll find out.
Who's to say?
Also, small spoiler: episode 5 is titled Chaos Magic. Episode 4 is titled Why Have Skill When You Have Luck. So we're going into a theme. Slight spoiler for people. Okay, that's all for Malone and Sid on here. Anything else you want to say to cap it off?
I don't think so. This was fun.
I would just like to send a message to Justine that I forgive her for saying, and I quote, "Fuck that guy," 22 minutes and 41 seconds into this episode.
Wow. He's got the receipts.
He probably has the footage saved on his computer elsewhere, too.
It's on my OneDrive.
All right. Thank you both for coming again, and thank you, Malone, for editing once again.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, Krish, we have one more task to perform. Who do you think is the player of the episode? If you want me to give you a short list, I can.
I think we should do a short list again.
Okay. I think from the Phoenix tribe, I think there's an obvious person to be on the short list. It's Sid. Got an idol. Got out a person that they didn't really have too much of a connection with in the game. No one is suspecting her of having said idol. If anything, Malone, who is still in the game, is taking most of the heat for it. On the Yeti tribe, Cole got an idol and immediately used it to lower his duo status with Robin, which is an effective thing. I don't think Eric and Shervin are buying it because, they know Robin knows. And I think that's really it. You could argue Eric could get it again.
Yeah.
Just for having such a firm control of that group. You could also argue that Taylor could have it as a person who didn't participate in the challenge, couldn't have had an idol, and wasn't even considered a target, unlike Cam.
I gave Sid my player of the week last week, and I didn't give Eric my player of the week last week because I said that I wouldn't give someone player of the week twice in a row. But ain't I a hypocrite? Because I think that Sydney has to get player of the week this week. Like the fact that no one suspects her, just like you couldn't play this more flawlessly.
I agree 100%. Like even like as we were in that booth, right, and we saw Sid do it, and then we saw like the whole vote out thing come along. All production was whispering was, "Holy crap, Sid might win this game." And this is not a spoiler because this was on vote 3. This is what production was thinking at this point in time.
I wasn't suspecting it. No one there was suspecting it. Great play.
Yeah, no one had any idea Sid was doing it. They were all playing process of elimination games, and somehow she wasn't even on the list. Very impressive.
It's because no one was talking strategy to her, so then no one thought to bring her up. That's the only like conclusion, right?
Seemed like she had a pretty good idea of who to vote for by the end of it, but sweet. I will say a quick Easter egg for people is if you go into 29 seconds in the intro, which is when Sydney's name comes up, she like turns around and looks at the camera and smirks. That is footage from her immediately after the me or we challenge, smirking at the camera after taking the me. So a little Easter egg for people from the intro if they wanna take a look at that intro again. Quite fun. All right. Next week we have a big episode. Once more. This is certainly going to be longer than this one. I'm telling you now. I edited this next one. So be prepared for an hour plus episode, people. Yeah. Anything else you want to say, Krish?
Looking forward to next week. Whatever swap, merge, randomness goes on. I'm here for it. I'm sure we'll come back next week, and once again I'll be like, I have no idea what happened. I'm here for it.
All right. See you, everybody.